Yeah, so this is Jessica's last Planning Commission meeting and her opportunity to say goodbye to the Planning Commission and vice versa. So Jessica's going to be taking up a position doing sustainability work for a tech company in Silicon Valley, which is extremely exciting. A big change of pace from certainly from things here in Lacey. The good news is she'll be staying locally. It'll be kind of a remote position, but a big change, and she'll be a huge loss for us and a huge loss for the Planning Commission. And we've been so happy to have Jessica for the last 3.5 years. I think her, demeanor and her project management skills and oversight of all these things has just been second to none. And I can say as her boss, she'll be extremely hard to replace. So with that, turn over to Jessica and any members of the Planning Commission that want to say goodbye.
Jessica.
Thanks, Ryan. It is definitely bittersweet to take on a new opportunity and leave the city of Lacey. I think it was a hard decision to make because I have to leave such amazing people day to day. So I do appreciate the Planning Commission, and I'm so excited. I see Sarah and Samra and Reese and Grant and Ryan are all here, so I get to continue my sentiments of just how amazing it was to work at Lacey. And I really enjoyed the Planning Commission in particular because you all are just, you're smart and you have such great ideas, and it certainly made my job a lot easier. So I do appreciate it. But I will miss you all, but I'm excited that I am not leaving the area, just my job.
So Jessica, thank you very much for everything that you've done. And I'm not sure the move to healthcare is, like, I've been there, but I think that I wish you the very, very best, and have fun and enjoy it. And we will miss you. I don't know if anybody else wants to say something. These people have worked with you longer.
Yes, I want to just say, Jessica, that it's been an absolute delight to work with you. I've gotten to work on the trees, which was wonderful. And you just bring a real clarity and crispness to the group. And I cherish those memories and days, and I wish you well in the future.
Thank you.
Yeah, Mark.
Yeah, I too wanted to wish Jessica the very best. We've always enjoyed her presentation. She has a unique way of making a complicated subject simpler and easier to understand, and has just done a terrific job each time she's presented to us. But who knows, maybe she's going to make Silicon Valley wages living in the Northwest. That wouldn't be a bad combination.
Wouldn't that be great?
But, anyway, congratulations, and we wish you the very best.
Thank you. Thank you, Mark.
Yeah, Karen. Oh, no, Daphne, sorry.
Well, I just want to say it has been a pleasure, Jessica. I think you're so professional. And so I echo what Mark's saying. You made very complicated subjects easy for us to follow as novices. And it's just been a joy to have you as part of this. So thank you and best of luck. And I'm sure you'll be very, very successful in your next endeavor. So thanks for being part of us.
Thanks, Daphne.
And Eddie.
Yeah, I want to echo what everyone else said. Also, I want to remind Jessica she's welcome to join us as a member of the public in her. You can see her face.
What a good idea. Robin.
I apologize, I came in late. But I'm still going to say, this is an outrage. Really, it's a super, I came in right as you were saying that she's leaving, and that's a bummer. It's been really great working with you, Jessica, and I'm sorry I didn't get the chance to work with you in person because the whole time I've been on the Planning Commission, it's been remote, but it didn't matter because the work you did shone through. So thank you for all your work.
Thanks, Robin.
Okay. So I guess now we will move on to new business and the discussion of the work program. Ryan.
Hi, guys. I'm going to the community work group for homelessness. Have a wonderful meeting.
Oh, thank you. Bye-bye, Jessica.
Yeah, so give me 1 second here. I'm going to go through the staff report with you. So at this point in the year is when we start to look at next year's work program for the Planning Commission. As you're aware, early in the year, so early 2022, we will have a joint work session between the Planning Commission and the City Council, and that's when the formal work program is presented to the City Council for their review and adoption. That's typically, it's known as the docket. So it's the annual docket of comprehensive plan amendments, code amendments, and joint planning amendments. And so I did include in your packet the adopted 2021 work program. Hopefully you had a chance to kind of go through that and remind yourself what was in that and what's been accomplished over this last year, which is significant. So I'm just going to talk about, go through kind of what we're thinking as staff. We're kind of doing the same thing on our end as far as, going through identifying things, figuring out what we have resources for, and what is realistic, and then be able to kind of take that information forward to the joint meeting. But before we do that, we want to make sure that the Planning Commission has does have ample opportunity to provide input into that as well. If there's something that you're thinking about in terms of the next year, what the Planning Commission maybe should be looking at more, this is your opportunity to kind of brainstorm those ideas or those questions that you might have about, why things are the way they are, or what things might need to be adjusted or fixed, or that you need an additional analysis for. So this is your opportunity to kind of discuss as a group and help inform that work program for next year. So what I'll do is I'll go through kind of what we're looking at for next year, what we've already got lined up, and then turn it over to you for either questions about kind of what we've come up with, or discussion on what additional you might want to add. So the first, under the comprehensive plan amendments, we have kind of several things underway to be aware of. Most of these are either required by a portion of the comp plan or are kind of funding dependent, and have been underway already. So the first is a Martin Way corridor study. This is that study that's looking at transportation and land use issues on Martin Way in Olympia, Lacey, and Thurston County. It's a joint plan with them as well as with intercity transit to address land use and transportation along the corridor. We're anticipating that this will be completed next year. You recently had a briefing on this, so I think everybody's generally aware of that at this point. Second item is the water utility plan. So we had a briefing, I believe it was a few months ago now, by Brandon McAllister. Brandon is in our Public Works Department. He provided a little bit of information on a necessary update to the water utility plan, which is, as you're aware, all of our utility plans undergo a regular update process, and it's time for an update to our water utility plan. And that was actually scoped to be completed this year, but didn't make the deadline in time to be included in the 2021 comp plan amendments. The next item on the list is the capital facilities plan update. So this is a significant update, a complete revision to our existing capital facilities plan. This will really look at future space needs for buildings across the city. So looking at city buildings and facilities and recommending level service requirements for each as our community grows, to make sure that our facilities keep pace with that growth. That's part of it. And that also a large part of it is we have a capital facilities plan kind of document or template, if you will, that is from the early 90s and is in extreme need of kind of modernization. And so that will also be completed as well. Will be a full update to the rest of our capital facilities plan. So things like utilities and streets and parks, all those things will be folded into our capital facilities plan, and will hopefully make it easier to update in the future. As a status update on that, and it's unfortunate that Jessica's leaving because she was a big part of this and would have been the lead on it. We are just right now interviewing consultants to help complete. We got about $300,000 in this city budget to complete this project. And right now we're just underway in interviewing consultants. And so that'll be completed by the end of 2022. 6-year transportation improvement plan. That's an annual review that we do every year with a public hearing, and that's a state requirement. Private comp plan amendments and rezones. We do have one application. I'm holding one application right now that will most likely move forward. So as part of the joint meeting, we'll take a look at the one application that we do have and kind of look at the merits, whether it merits moving forward on the docket or not. It's a very logical application, and they've been working with us, with the staff, to develop the application for this rezone. It's a single parcel, and it's not very complicated, so I would imagine that it would move forward. So that's the comprehensive plan amendments for we're scoping out for next year. Obviously, we've completed some very big ones in this last year, so we're trying to finish up those that are underway and not start any new or huge updates to our comp plan, because we have a periodic update to our comprehensive plan that's due in 2025. So our last periodic update was done in 2016. These updates take about 3 years to complete. So we're also scoping out, starting with our 2025 update next year in 2022, and starting to lay the groundwork for that multi-year update. Code revisions. As far as code revisions, we didn't have really anything specific that we wanted the Planning Commission to be aware of, other than, we've completed some big comp plans over the last few years. So, I'm talking about the Housing Action Plan, the Thurston Climate Mitigation Plan, Pedestrian Bicycle Plan, Depot District Sub-Area Plan, Urban Forest Management Plan. All these things have either been updated or adopted in the last several years, but we've really done very limited work on the implementation. And so, I think what staff's looking at is, those code updates that are proposed, when they're proposed, would come out of those large plans and give us kind of the opportunity to start implementing some of these big documents that, we don't want to have just sitting on a shelf somewhere. I also mentioned the staff report, and I don't know if this was prescient on my end or not, but I did say that, with some of these implementation items, that these will, a lot of them will be staff led. Not all of them will be touching the Planning Commission, and they may just, some of them go directly through the City Council. So our ability to work with the Planning Commission next year may be limited. And this was even before I knew Jessica was leaving. It's going to take, a good 6 months to a year to get an employee that's, up and running on the long range side of things. So, what I would say is be prepared for less meetings next year, because we're not going to have the resources to be able to do meetings as regularly as we have been over the last number of years. So just something to be aware of, not necessarily, just in your discussions, keep that in mind. And then finally, the last thing wanted to mention is, and it seems to be on the work program every year because it's a little bit out of our control, and that's joint planning with Thurston County. So we have our 2016 comprehensive plan update that's still kind of in a holding pattern at Thurston County. They essentially are still operating under a 2003 comprehensive plan in our urban growth area. And until they adopt our 2016 update, we're still in that kind of holding pattern, as I mentioned. The good news is that Thurston County is making headway on their updates. They've recently adopted or are adopting the Tumwater joint plan. The next plan on the list is Olympia, and then we're last. The reason being is that I think we're the most complicated. We have the largest urban growth area. We have an urban growth area that's almost the same size as our city limits. And so politically and those kinds of things, I think it'll be a little bit more complicated to complete than some of the. Tumwater essentially has no urban growth area, and Olympia has a small UGA in comparison to ours. So I think, just based on the size of our UGA alone, there will be some complex issues that they'll need to address. And so rather than taking on the hard thing first, they'll take the easy stuff first and then move on to us. So anyway, that's what I've got. Again, just to give you some idea of what we're looking at for the next year, but wanted to turn it over to you to certainly discuss, ask any questions, but discuss any items that you're looking at, maybe we can tackle for the next year. I've got a pen and paper here and I'll add them to the list.
Okay. Comments from people? Questions? Mark? Sorry.
Yeah, I brought this up last year when we were talking about, planning for the next year. And I know the council was busy. I brought it up in the council meeting when we met with them. And the idea of perhaps creating a task force or some kind of a group, maybe an additional committee in the with us or with the council to study how to attract high-tech employers for our area. I think we've done a terrific job when it comes to a housing strategy and trying to find ways of keeping the costs down for people to be able to have a roof over their head. But I think we also need to address the other side of the equation. That's how we can get people out of these $15 to $20 an hour jobs and into something that pays well, so they won't be cost burdened, and they have a chance to move into their own home. But again, this is up to the council on whether or not they want to add that to what they want to work on. My other comment was just a question more. Has the homeless committee submitted their report yet? I haven't seen anything.
No, it's a good point, Mark. I've written down your subcommittee. I remember that from last year. That's something that might be done separate from the Planning Commission. As like you said, maybe a subcommittee to look at that, and that might be through kind of more of our economic development portion of our department. Your second part, as far as the committee has not submitted their recommendations yet. The report is due by the end of the year. The reason and again, this gets complicated because we're trying to do a lot with a little. The reason you haven't seen Jessica lately coming to these meetings is because Jessica's been pulled off, long-range planning stuff and put on the work group. And one of Jessica's main tasks at the end was to finish up this document. So that may be delayed. We might have to reach out to other departments to help us be able to finish that. So that's, at this point, we're still optimistic that that'll be completed by the end of the year. And there may be some adjustments that we'll have to make to things like the emergency housing regulations that the Planning Commission made a recommendation on. Those are will be in front of the council at a later date, and we may need to do some additional work on that. We are waiting for this process to resolve itself before we took those forward fully to the council.
Yeah, the reason I asked that question about the homeless committee, if they, I thought it was going to be this month, but I guess it's been delayed even further. And I just had a feeling that maybe some of their suggestions were things that may get bounced back to the Planning Commission to discuss and to work on before the council moves on it. But I guess we have to wait to see what they have.
Peg had her hand up.
Along the same thinking as Mark presented, the ultimate solution to the homelessness situation, of course, is more housing, and there's been a cooperative effort and the report is coming forth. But in the meantime, city services like police and emergency and refuse are being taxed. The situation, conditions are developing, and they're having an adverse impact on the community. And I think the emergency word is a good word to use. I think that the whole situation is just continuing to fester. So if there are some intermediary steps that we could consider in addition to the efforts on the larger coordinated effort with the other jurisdictions, I think we should look at that. And I did see that was on the list that you have, but I just want to reiterate and agree with what Mark is saying.
Any other comments? Yeah, definitely.
Well, this is a little bit of a segue off of what you mentioned, Ryan, and I'm kind of, and I honestly feel this, I'm urban growth representative on the Planning Commission, and I feel this every time my ballot comes out and I can vote for like 1/10 of the people. And I'm wondering, whatever we do in the work program, given the large population of urban growth that is, that Lacey has, as well as the population there, that maybe a little, just incorporate some greater outreach to urban growth areas and some consideration of those perspectives. So I would just like to see, and I think it could help with any of our partnerships with the county too, if us, those of us that are in urban growth are talking to our, the county, employees and, appointees and such like that. So I just think that a little bit more focus on the urban growth, given that it's so critical to Lacey's success, both by geography and population.
Yep, great suggestion. And certainly that'll be done as part of the joint plan. So, in the past, what we've done is joint, planning commission meetings with Thurston County's Planning Commission and ours to complete some of this, and it doesn't necessarily reach directly out to the UGAs, but there will be UGA outreach done with, the public outreach that we do for that. But what I wanted to mention is, with our last update, this was probably like 2014. We did, and Gail might remember, we did Planning Commission on the road, and we actually went out we actually went out to some schools. I think we went to Evergreen Forest Elementary, and then we went out to Olympic View Elementary, both of which were in the UGA. So that's something that we'll definitely be looking at with the 2025 update is, and we had a lot of success with, taking, the Planning Commission kind of on the road, taking the meetings out of, out of our normal, venue there at City Hall. Hopefully by then the whole COVID thing will be, sorted out. We could do that again, but yes, I definitely agree. And we'll be doing that both as part of the joint plan and with the 2025 update.
Okay, great, thanks.
Robin?
I said this in the joint agenda setting meeting that we had last year, and just to get it in the notes, I'll say it again. It appears that the workload is 2.75 FTEs worth of work, and you have 2 FTEs and now just 1 staff person doing some of this work, unless I'm missing somebody, right? It's you and Jessica, right, Ryan? And now Jessica's departing. And the population of Lacey has grown substantially in the last couple of years. And as we add more pieces of the urban growth area, the need for this sort of long-term strategic planning work is growing. So I wonder about the conversation related to staffing, because I want to make sure that the city has the resources it needs to do this planning and to support the Planning Commission. But I think we all want to get all of this stuff done, and we don't have enough people.
Yep, and I'll agree with that.
But
You don't have to say anything, just put it in the notes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I do think that, the implementation part of it is really important. There's no reason for us to go through all this agonizing over all these plans, and then as Wayne said, it goes on a shelf somewhere and everyone goes, well, that was nice. So I think if in fact to get that implementation done, we need to have, or we can have fewer meetings and have those meetings on essential issues, rather than have a meeting just to have a meeting and try to, find an agenda, then I think we should do that and not feel that we're not doing anything, but that we're supporting you doing the implementation work. I'm glad you're doing it, not us, but.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's a good point, Gail, and maybe I'll just ask the question of the rest of the planning commission. I mean, are there concerns that, concerns with the, the meetings maybe being less regular? Okay.
Yes.
Because the downside is, especially for the newer members, those kinds of things, you lose the kind of the continuity. It's nice to be able to fill you in regularly on those things that are happening. When we're doing only essential things, we're not getting to things like, educational items and those kinds of things that almost kind of like tonight's stuff, with like the development update, and having this brainstorm session, those things would be less likely to happen. So there are downsides to that as well.
And those are, I agree that those are important, and they're usually very productive, but the work that's required that's been put in already that needs to be pulled together and implemented is important. And I think that needs to get done so if we have, if we meet once a month, or we meet, twice a month and then once a month, or whatever that takes to keep some of that educational stuff in there, but then to allow you guys some time to get the work done, that would be, I think that would work for the planning commission, would be my guess.
I can find a way to fill the hours if we don't have a meeting.
Yeah.
Though I've never left a meeting feeling that I didn't learn something significant or feel I could contribute more in the city based on what I learned, even though maybe we didn't make a decision or make a recommendation or anything. So I candidly, I'll fill the time, no problem, as Robin says, but I feel we will lose some momentum, and maybe we'll be queuing up fewer things for 2023 by having the absence of the energy and the discussions and the great conversation that we have out of these. So I will feel the loss for the planning commission's perspective, but am respectful of the balance of workload and such like that. I understand that, but I think we'll feel the loss for it, and we may lose some traction.
I recognize that there are boundaries between what the staff perform and what the planning commission performs in terms of this process. However, there could be some delegation for some research if there's people who want to take it on. I would find it rather interesting to have a tree assignment where I'm going to go out and count some trees or look at a certain kind of tree. That would be exciting to me, and would be delighted. So just throw that into the mix.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Anything else that anybody wants to bring up? Any, burning topics, questions, those kinds of things? Mark.
Yeah, I just wasn't sure what the progress, or there is any progress on. We talked about a potential of a sports complex or something down near Mushroom Corner. Are they making progress on that, or is that something just still in the design works or the conversation?
Rick would know more about that than I would. I think the likelihood gets less and less by the day, and the first thing that comes to my mind that I'm aware of is that the city was interested in the Ostrom's property and had an appraisal conducted and those kinds of things. But my understanding is that it's highly likely that we won't purchase the property. So that's a big barrier. It looks like it's going to be a residential developer that's most likely going to purchase that property, which brings us to where else could you put it? And so that brings up, well, the Gateway property and discussions with the tribe. And that's where Rick could really help fill in kind of what some of those discussions are with a kind of a public-private partnership opportunity there. So, maybe the next time Rick's here, that might be a great question for Rick as far as where that might be, Mark.
Are you talking about the property where Ostrom's is, or kitty corner them, where we had talked about the empty land that we were talking about a sports complex?
So what I was talking about is where Ostrom's is. my understanding for like what we call the RAC Phase 3, which is the property that's south of Nisqually Middle School, the undeveloped piece of property there at the southwestern corner of the intersection, is likely going to be developed for more sports fields, not indoor, more outdoor sports fields. The reason being is that it has some environmental limitations with the pocket gopher that's on the property. So there's going to be some development limitations, and the likelihood of a indoor facility there, I don't think it's going to happen. So I think the discussions have transitioned to discussions with around the Gateway property and what might occur there.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, so I'll just mention, Gail, before you transition
go
to the
ahead.
next item is what we'll do. We'll take this information that you've provided here tonight and kind of draft up our work program. And like I said, we've kind of been doing discussions on our end, and probably December-ish, maybe our second meeting in November, early December, we'll come back to you with kind of a draft work program before the meeting that we'll have in early 2022 with the council, so that you can kind of weigh in on where things are at and what things are looking like. And so we'll have a draft of that ready for you by the end of the year for you to review.
All right, so we are going to move on. Thank you very much, Ryan. And do you want to introduce Grant? Well, Grant has started already.
And here's Grant.
And here's Grant.
No, I'll turn it over to Grant Beck. Grant is our Planning and Development Services Manager. He's been with us now for maybe a couple months, Grant.
3 or 4 years, I think it is.
To go over with the Planning Commission some of the recent projects that have been completed, and kind of be able to see some of the fruits of the work on the current planning side that you've been setting the stage with on all the policy and comprehensive plan framework. So with that, turn it over to Grant.
Thank you. And like Ryan said, Rick normally does this. He's over at the homelessness task force tonight, and will be for a bit, I think, as they wrap up their stuff. What I wanted to do is just kind of go through some of the projects that have been approved and are under construction and that kind of stuff that you're seeing out there maybe right now, and also give you a little glimpse on some of the things that are in process right now and we're currently reviewing. But I'll start off by saying, I haven't been here that long, I think about a month and a half. And I have to tell you what you already know and what you already indicated tonight earlier with Jessica is you've got a tremendous staff here. They do a great job. It's just a pleasure to be part of the team and help support them as much as possible and help them support you. The current planners kind of, you don't get to see them much because they're busy dealing with the development community, kind of where the rubber meets the road, implementing the policies that you've been working so hard on, and cutting edge policies. It's completely, this is Ziggy. He'll be joining me for the presentation tonight. All the work you've been doing in keeping Lacey at the cutting edge of planning and just building community. And I think I'll put a pitch for Ryan's earlier discussion about implementation and kind of focusing on that. The current planners struggle at times because there are large portions of our zoning code that were last updated in 1985. Mm-hmm. So we've really been doing a lot of good planning work, and it's time now to kind of focus on both how to help them streamline the process and do their job more efficiently, and provide better service to the customers with clear code language and clear processes instead of as they kind of grown organically over time. And that is not any knock on anybody. It's an incredible organization, and I'm so amazed at where Lacey is, having been grown up here, where it is now compared to years before. So I did invite the current planners just so you can, put names to faces and get to see them a little more often, because they're usually in their little holes staring at computer screens and writing staff reports. So also, since I am so new, I got a sense for all the projects, but they're the ones who really lived it and got everything to this point. So if there's any questions on anything, they'll be able to answer better than I on how the projects came to be. So here we go. Starting out, just a little snapshot of building permit activity over the last couple of years, going back to 2015. And you'll see the significant shift here. And this was also part of the Finance Department's budget presentation as a trend. We are seeing, fewer single-family homes being built and more multifamily as we switch over, and a lot of the single-family land is developed out. So that's a trend we expect to continue. The 2020 numbers are to the end of September, and those there'll be a lot more blue on that chart by the end of the year. And one of the things we kind of looked at from this time period was just the cost of things, because one of the reasons, that to build housing is to accommodate additional people and help keep housing affordable. But there's many other factors in place. And so we pulled this data as kind of a snapshot as we look into implementing the housing report and what we can do to help the market provide more affordable housing for all segments. But back in 2015, the average rent in Lacey for a 2-bedroom apartment was just over $1,000. This year, it's about almost $1,900. Also in 2015, the average sales price, the median sale price for a single-family dwelling was $270,000. This year, it's at $480,000. So we've got a lot more housing stock out there, a lot more apartment complexes, but we're still seeing a rise in housing costs. So we're dealing with, that's one piece of that puzzle. And I guess the point is keep this statistic in time as we come back to you with implementation strategies for other aspects of the housing action plan. So through September, we did 74 new single-family dwellings, 4 accessory building units, 2 fourplexes, 9 apartment buildings for 194 total units, 3 commercial buildings, 65 additions, alterations, and tenant improvements for commercial and industrial buildings, and 3 new industrial buildings. And to put that in perspective, kind of to circle back to, I believe it was Robin's comment about a growing city and the demand for services going up. In looking at what the anticipated annual revenue from property tax for each of those 3 clusters would be to the city, not their total property tax bill, but what comes to the city, out of that many single family dwellings would be about $18,000, $19,000 in annual revenue. The multifamily units, about the same, and commercial and industrial about $50,000, just under $50,000. So you can see kind of along with sales tax revenue and stuff where the bang for the buck is there and the demand for services. But wanted to put that in context as we grow and demand for services grows as well. But now to the fun stuff, the projects that we've been looking at and the planners have been working on over the last year or two. The first one we wanted to point out is the Landing. This is a redevelopment of an existing commercial site. It's on the corner of Slater Kinney and Pacific. This is where, for my local reference points, you'll have to bear with me. It's where the used bookstore used to be, and I spent a lot of time in. And there was a Thai restaurant, a flower shop right there. So that entire complex is coming down, and they're building 5 brand new commercial pads. And there's some renderings of the proposals. I think they've got a couple of tenants in there signed up now, but they're working on it right now, and you can probably see that they're starting the demolition, and at least one of the buildings is down already. The next project is really exciting because it's the first residential development we had in the Midtown district since the market crashed. So it's the 6th Avenue Apartments. It's a 4-story, 151 unit mixed use development with the ground floor retail. Again, it's the first residential building in there for quite a while. And it was also the first residential project reviewed under the Woodland District form-based code. And that one's under construction now. You can see I think they're forming up for foundations as we speak. And please stop me if there's any questions or have anything particular on. That's why the subject matter experts are here. We also are continuing to do some residential single family development. There's a subdivision that's out between 6th and 15th, just north of North Thurston High School. It's an 80 lot subdivision of a 15-acre parcel. They've got about just under 4 acres left over for a future phase potentially. So that one has preliminary approval, and they should be out there sometime in the near future, building roads and putting all the infrastructure in. This is Reese's favorite project. It was really a sexy one, but it is kind of a good project because it's a redevelopment and filling an empty building. So this is the old Shopco site, and we've got Coastal Farm and Ranch home improvement, home and garden store going in. They're adding about 25,000 square feet of outdoor storage space as well, and it'll be nice to have somebody in that building.
Yeah.
Then a bunch of stuff on Carpenter Road. The Serenity Apartment Homes is a 81 multifamily development. It's going to have some live work units, which I think are going to be as we come out of the pandemic, and hopefully continue to keep some of the good things like remote work and not driving all over the place. They're providing some live work units in this one, which is exciting, as well as a coffee
What's a
shop.
lived work unit? What does that entail?
Just as it implies, it's got a space, it's a residential space with an attached area that could be used for office space, potentially retail. It's kind of a separate, area that you can get away from the residential aspect, so you don't have to see your cat sitting on the desk as you're doing Zoom calls. And usually has a outdoor, so the public can come in through a separate entrance in the residential unit. So I live near some downtown Olympia, and would have loved to have a place like that during the pandemic, just to have a separate spot where you're not blending things too much. So they're becoming quite popular.
I was going to mention, Grant, I think this is the first live work unit in Lacey, as far as I can remember, at least that's built to handle a live work unit. If there are planning commission members interested in seeing what those look like, as Grant mentioned, there's a space, the Views project in downtown Olympia that is across from Bayview. There's some live work units right on, I believe that's 4th there. State, yeah, 4th. So right on 4th Avenue, essentially right across from Bayview. They've got, so the good thing is they've got like frontage right on the street, so that they could be a small office, but they could also be a live space as well. Very, very flexible. And they have a lot of advantages for residents, but also people that are leasing them out too, that could get both a commercial tenant and a residential tenant all in one.
Yeah,
I'm trying to figure out where that is. What road is that adjacent to there?
This is Carpenter Road.
Oh,
And
okay.
Martin Way right up
Got
there.
it. Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
So there's a
That'll
couple
be nice.
other renderings. Yeah.
What road is that at the top?
Martin Way.
Oh, okay.
This is actually property, sorry, this is Sarah Schelling, and I'm the planner who worked on this. This is property that was annexed to the city, I think last year, for the purpose of a multifamily complex like this with the live work units. And these live work units will be, I think, similar to those that Ryan mentioned, with the workspace down on the ground floor and the living unit up top.
Mm.
And the workspace typically has its own little kitchenette and restroom facilities. So again, you can have your office space and not have to intrude into the residential portion of the building. Right. Another multifamily project. This is north side of the freeway, Griffin Multifamily. It's 183 units in 12 separate buildings. This was approved as a planned residential development, which allows some flexibility in our density and improvement standards if you do a kind of a creative development. So they added some density bonuses for providing additional open space. So this one, they just are pulling their foundation permit right now, so they'll be getting started here shortly. It's hard to get a good rendering of a residential,
Yeah.
They're very flat.
Yeah.
This is a kind of a fun one. This site is encumbered by a wetland complex that includes a national heritage wetland, and they live in behavioral health.
Pat, I'm on Zoom. Can I call you back? Do you need something? Okay, I'll call you back.
It's almost a 76,000 square foot, 85 bed behavioral health hospital. And it's just on a very small portion of the property. So they've actually protected all those wetlands and preserved the national heritage wetland and still accommodated what's going to be really cool, cool unit out there. Sam, any of the good stuff on that?
Where is that? I'm sorry, I missed that. What's that road?
That is Hogan Bay Road.
Okay, thank you.
All right, that's Marvin Road and 31st, actually.
Thank you.
And yeah, I think the biggest, it's an important service that was approved through a conditional use permit service. We needed the additional mental health beds in the community, and then the preservation of the wetland was really important for the hospital as well as the city and the state Department of Ecology. But they really were able to use, this is a property that's zoned light industrial, and it was really an impossible property to use for light industrial because there was such limited upland area. So this use as a behavioral health hospital was really a great use of this property. Meets a community need, preserves the wetland, and actually makes some use of the property. And it's not a, it is a taxable facility. It's not a nonprofit. So it also provides some tax revenue to the city as well as high-paying jobs, actually.
When is that slated to be complete?
It's probably 2 years. Their plans are beginning to come in. Their civil plans have come in and have been under review. I would imagine construction may start next spring.
Is this the facility that St. Peter's Providence proposed?
It's Providence is a partner. It's Fairfax Providence, Universal Health Systems.
Great, thank you.
Okay. So the next one, we're just going to move down the road, down Marvin Road a little bit to Tech Equipment. And this is a truck dealership and service facility. It's in a beautiful one. It's in 2 buildings, just over 60,000 square feet. It includes an outdoor showroom pavilion and a truck display and staging areas, and they also have a service component. And it's just on the kind of the northern portion of this site right here, and some other perspectives of it. So this is, not a Ford truck dealership. This is a big truck dealership and service area. So certainly fits in with the warehouse district and what's going on out there.
Nice looking building.
It is, yeah.
Grant, can I just also mention that the south half of the site will be commercial retail pads that are zoned Hawks Prairie Business District, business commercial. And so part of the tech equipment project was also approval of a site plan, a preliminary site plan for those, for that south half of the site as well. So we'll start to see some additional development that looks probably similar to what's across the street at Britton Plaza, where the McConey's is, and the Port Bistro.
Thank you. Then NC Machinery, this is a 40,000 square foot building for the sales, rental, and service of heavy equipment. So similar and kind of synergistic type of use for this area. It also has some nice design elements. And then finally, no, these guys haven't been through design review yet, so we've got no good pictures, but this is going to be a two-story, 18,000 square foot mixed use building right at the corner of Martin Way and Hoe Drive, and Talon Street is the northern one here. So that's a mixed use with residential above and or residential or office,
Office,
Yeah.
correct.
And retail below. So. And then finally, I think that's the last one on the current project, Martin Way mixed use. And this is way out on the edge of town in the little triangle, that challenging little site there, but they're managing to get in a 5-story mixed use building, ground floor retail, 96 dwelling units. They increased their base densities by going through the use of the community benefit bonuses, and they're providing additional amenities in the complex, as well as being on the Martin Way corridor with a multimodal pedestrian, vehicle opportunities for transit.
What are the amenities they're offering?
Reese?
Yeah, let me pull those up. So some of the amenities, it's going to be the use of solar cells on top, a high efficiency heat pump called the City Multi. They're going to be providing a ride sharing service with electric scooters or electric bikes. That hasn't been which one hasn't been confirmed yet, but they'll have that. A high amount of electrical vehicle charging stations, locally sourced materials when feasible, LEED silver equivalent, and they've incorporated their stormwater with LID techniques, low impact development techniques.
Are any buildings coming down to put this up, or any current businesses coming down to put this up?
There is a old derelict barber shop there, but no, it'll be a boundary line adjustment to unify. There's about 4 parcels there that they'll be unifying. And it's actually mostly vacant, built on a grade, and they're incorporating that grade into the site design for underground parking.
Thank you.
All right, so now we're going to move on to some of the things that are under review right now. And so we're not going to get into a lot of details because some of them are still pending on hold for additional information and the public participation process. But to give you a little heads up, we've got a couple multifamily developments going in along Hicks Lake, actually right next to each other. The first is a 178 unit complex. It'll include a recreation building, sport court, swimming pool, picnic shelters, and shoreline access, along with a community dock. So this is kind of the conceptual. These are very conceptual. They will change before we get too much further into the process. And we're actually on hold on both these projects for additional information at the moment, including some revised site plans. So very conceptual at this point. They're dealing with, both projects are dealing with, wetlands, Hicks Lake shoreline, somewhat more challenging stormwater situation than we're used to, or in other areas, and traffic issues. It's in kind of back in a residential neighborhood with lower lower speed, lower capacity residential roads. So the traffic studies through Public Works are, key to the review and approval of these processes. So they're both on hold for stormwater. The next one is also on hold for additional transportation information. And that's a elevation of what they could look like. The next one is Gateway at Hicks Lake. It's 132 units. It's also got an amenity building, a recreation building, a pool, and access to Hicks Lake as well. This site plan, I think, already has changed once and will change again, moving things further away from the lake and outside the shoreline jurisdiction and setback. So we haven't heard back from either of these applicants yet after they were put on hold. So with some of the stormwater information that's required, they may not be imminent as far as the public review and public hearing processes. Both of them require shoreline permits that will require a public hearing before the hearing examiner. So stay tuned for that. It may be next year before the hearings are held on these. This one is in fact Samra's project. So finally, this one's kind of fun. It just came in recently. It's a mixed-use development, and this one is on probably on Hogan Bay Road or adjacent to Hogan Bay Road and Marvin Road, and Willamette right on that little triangle piece as you come out of the divergent timing before you get to the roundabout. And it's a mixed-use development with apartment complexes that would be over kind of on this side, and then a retail over on the other side. And the retail is focused on kind of recreational. One of the proposals is for indoor and outdoor pickleball courts and a restaurant in the middle of them to kind of do a urban vibe with, place you can sit on the top of the restaurant and watch the pickleball people and have a beer. And then other similar types of retail uses surrounding it as well. This building also has a retail component on the corner there. So that one should be kind of fun. It's an interesting concept, and they did a nice job on their homework. Samra, anything you want to add for that one?
No, you stole my pickleball thunder. I was just waiting to unleash that one. No, that's yeah. I think that's pretty much it. It'll just be nice to get some more multifamily up in that area, some more rooftops, and to finally see that parcel develop after many, many years. So that'll really be a nice addition to the area.
And with the types of commercial uses, I think there's going to be a nice synergy between the two uses there. They're also planning to have outdoor events and concerts and kind of some community stuff, social stuff on the commercial pads.
I was going to mention too, Grant, this went through the planning commission process. So this was that private applicant initiated zoning text amendment to allow residential in the Hawkesbury Business District Commercial District that the planning commission completed, I want to say about 4 or 5 months ago now. Planning commission has a lot of familiarity with this because of the zoning text amendment that came through a couple months ago.
Yeah, so this is a very fresh rubber on a very fresh road. So that's good. And we'll make sure that as we get a little further along in the design review process, we'll bring that to you so you can kind of see how that visualization and how it plays out from that good work that you did. Up in the Meridian campus, there's a proposal for a neighborhood market with some gas pumps. This is also on hold. We required here a retail trade study. Originally, they had proposed 6 gas pumps and more gas-centric, I guess, focused. And we were concerned that didn't meet the scale and compatibility with the neighborhood commercial zoning district. So we actually required them to do a little market study to see what was appropriate out there. It came back with some recommendations that the applicants now have and will hopefully incorporate into their application. And it's on hold pending that. There's been a lot of public comment on this one, and for a number of reasons, traffic being one of them, just the gas station being the other. Because back in 2003, when the zoning code was updated, specifically the neighborhood commercial always allowed gas stations up to 4 pumps and convenience stores. The 2003 amendment actually switched the gas stations into a conditional use permit process, which adds another layer of review and kicks it into the hearing examiner's review area. And the criteria for approval are a little fuzzier than a kind of a straight administrative sort of process, which gives some more latitude for the citizens out there to participate and give their point of view on what should be compatible or not. So we're going to try to frame this through the public participation process to get folks focused on that, and maybe not as much on just yes or no, but what parts of it fit in or don't fit in their opinion, what design elements could change. Just try to make sure that the process that they have to use and use it to their fullest effectiveness. And then these two, I'm going to go through really quickly. They're also brand new. These are, in the same general area. So here's the neighborhood market just down the road are these two proposals. They look a lot alike because they're from the same developer. But they're both townhouse developments. One is 28 3-story townhomes in a 5-building cluster. And the other one is 39, also 3-story townhomes in 7-building clusters. And so those are almost, I think they came in last week, in fact, or maybe the week before. So they're brand new and just starting in the review process. But we'll be taking a look at those here shortly.
I was curious about that one. Are those going to be rental units or are those homes for sale?
Is that a Sarah?
Oh,
My
that was, sorry.
Yeah, my understanding is they're going to be condo ownership, so for sale under the condominium, State Condominium Act.
Also, I forgot to mention just on the Hicks Lake, both apartment complexes. This happened before I got here, but I did get to watch the video. But the current planning team actually did a little webinar on those because of the public interest in those two projects, and did a little question and answer webinar, explained the process, explained what the projects were, what the zoning allowed, and what's been planned there for years. It was just one of the things that really impressed me when I got here was that kind of outreach on a current planning project, just to make sure everybody, is informed about what's going on, what the process is, and where they can have the ability to participate in that process. I think that was fabulous, and I know Brian and Jessica do that a lot for the long range stuff, which is more normal. But I really loved it for the current planning project. I think that was just an exceptional outreach. And I think that is it, unless there's any other questions or feedback on how this would be better next time or more educational.
Grant, is this map? This is a story map. This is just a website. Are we able to share this with the Planning Commission after the meeting so that they can look through it?
We can, and we will. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect.
I think it's really interesting to see, when we're working at the very, very front end of some of this stuff, to see how it grows up and becomes actual homes and buildings, because we're far removed from that end of the process. But it's very educational to see this, I think.
Planning is not something you want to get into if you're not very patient.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Any comments from anybody? Sorry, Mark.
Yeah, just nice presentation. I enjoyed seeing all the things that are in the works.
Yeah. Very
Robin,
good.
did you have a question?
Yeah, I can't see everybody's face, unfortunately.
I am, my internet connection is super unstable, so I don't even know if I'm in order. But the one
ahead.
thing that I often am just curious about as we see these plans is the anticipated completion date. So if there's a way to add like an estimated completion date on each project, just so we get a sense of the timing, because some of these things are probably 5 years out, some of them are 2 years out. That might be good for next time, but this was excellent. Thank you very
Yeah,
much.
really good.
Yeah, thank you. And again,
Yeah.
thank you to Sandra.
Peg has
Reese, and Sarah.
Peg, do you have your hand up? Peg?
Yes, I just
Sorry.
had a question. The renderings are just that, I know, but it looked as though there was a lot of green that's going to be displaced, and we have a lot of concern for our trees. So I'm going to assume that those considerations will be reviewed.
Oh, absolutely. That's
Okay.
part of the review process. We have a tree preservation program. And sorry, one of the things with Zoom is sometimes people jump around. It's hard to, there you are. We do have rules for tree preservation and tree tracks, and that is part of our normal review process and making sure that those are incorporated in the final plans with everything. So
Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay. Thank you very much. That really was very interesting. Very good.
well, thank you all.
So I think that, are there any communications or announcements from anyone? See any hands up?
I'll just
Okay.
mention that our next meeting is been canceled. So it's election day that day, and there may be certain members of the planning commission that might have other duties that night. So we'll reconvene on November 16th, and that'll be actually our public hearing for the parking amendments. So that'll give us some additional time to reach out to stakeholders and make them aware of the amendments and get some feedback on that prior to the public hearing on the 16th.
Okay. All right, so that was what I was going to say. Our next meeting is canceled and we're meeting on November 16th. So don't forget to vote. Okay. So thank you all very much. And I guess we are adjourned. Thank you.
Thanks, Gail.
Bye, everybody.
Thanks, Ryan.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
everybody. Thank you to Samra
Good meeting.
and everybody.
Thank you to the
Good luck.
staff.
Good luck, Robin.